When people think about Aleister Crowley and Thelema, they often think about satanic imagery. But is that what Thelema is really about? In this video, we will unravel Crowley's use of symbols like 666, Satan, and Baphomet, and see what they really mean in the context of Thelema. Stick around because by the end, you'll understand how the use of these symbols points to something much deeper than you might expect. If you enjoy this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Also, please consider supporting me through Patreon. I will leave a link to my Patreon in the description for this video. Now let's explore Crowley and Satan. So Thelema abounds in satanic imagery. Crowley referred to himself as To-Megatherion, or the Great Beast 666. Nowadays, 666 is often used in relationship to the Antichrist. In the Book of Revelation, the Great Beast is often taken to be a representation of the world's governments in opposition to Christianity. In the context of OTO, Crowley took the motto Baphomet. Baphomet is the idol that the Knights Templars were accused of worshipping. The occultist Eliphas Levi associated Baphomet with the Sabbatic goat, which eventually became associated with Satanism by Crowley's time. Writing in Magic and Theory and Practice, Crowley said, "The devil is, historically, the god of any people that one personally dislikes. This has led to so much confusion of thought that the beast 666 has preferred to let names stand as they are and to proclaim simply that I was. The solar phallic hermetic Lucifer is his own holy guardian angel, and the devil, Satan, or Hadit of our particular unit of the starry universe. This serpent, Satan, is not the enemy of man, but he who made gods of our race, knowing good and evil. He bade know thyself and taught initiation. He is the devil of the Book of Thoth, and his emblem is Baphomet, the androgyne, who is the hieroglyph of arcane perfection." However, on the same page in the same book, he says, "The devil does not exist. It is a false name invented by the Black Brothers to imply a unity in their ignorant muddle of dispersions. A devil who had unity would be a god." So what exactly is the role of Satan in Thelema? Did Crowley consider himself to be Satan or the Antichrist? Are Thelemites committed to worshiping Satan? In the context of Christianity, Satan is a supernatural being that entices human beings into sin and falsehood. He is often considered to be a fallen angel who is in rebellion against God. The problem with this idea of Satan from a Thelemic perspective is that almost all of it is incoherent. What is sin from a Thelemic perspective? It's any arbitrary distinction or division. The word of sin is restriction. It's the setting of one thing against another, which the book of the law warns us will bring upon us the direful judgment of Rahor Kuit. Writing in Liber 5 Vel Reguli, Crowley says, "This is in fact the formula of our magic. We insist that all acts must be equal, that existence asserts the right to exist, that unless evil is a mere term expressing some relation of haphazard hostility between forces equally self-justified, the universe is as inexplicable and impossible as uncompensated action. But the existence of evil is fatal to philosophy so long as it is supposed to be independent of conditions. And to accustom the mind to make no difference between any two ideas as such is to emancipate it from the thraldom of terror. The perception of evil arises when we oppose one part of the universe to another. We're perfectly justified to speak of evil from a relative perspective. For example, from the human perspective, arsenic is evil because it kills us when it enters our bodies. But imagine the universe from a theoretical God's eye perspective, which is what Crowley has in mind when he talks in that passage about independence from conditions. And suddenly the ideas of good and evil vanish completely. This is why the idea of an opponent of God doesn't make sense from a Thelemic point of view. God would either be an absolute perspective on being, or it would just be being itself considered in its totality. Everything which exists is part of being and serves a function in the totality of being, the totality of which always equals zero. If you were to eradicate some part of the universe because it was evil, it would actually cause the entire cosmos to unravel. In order for something to be real in the magical universe, it has to have the structure of self. A self is a type of unity that is able to undergo change without being destroyed by that change. The change that it goes through is actually productive of its selfhood. Death is not opposed to true self. The true self undergoes constant death and constant renewal. The symbol of this in the context of Thelema is the sun. Anything that does not have the structure of self is strictly speaking not real. It is at most only relatively real. None of the things that you're experiencing right now, including me and my voice, none of that is real. They are all illusions. The only thing in the Thelemic universe that has any reality are true selves, which the Book of the Law refers to as stars. A single star is an entire universe centered on a particular hadith. If you could come to experience your entire universe all at once, such as happens in a mystical experience, then the phenomena of good and evil would completely disappear. But because you're only perceiving part of the universe right now, because you have a limited perspective, you do perceive good and evil. You perceive division and opposition between things. Because of this, you have certain experiences that you lust after. You have certain experiences that you're averse to. You have certain experiences that bore you. This is why Crowley says that the devil is not real, and that a devil that had actual unity would not be the devil, but would just be God. If by devil we mean an evil self, then the devil can't be real because nothing evil is real in anything other than a relative or illusory sense. It can't be a self. It can't be an entity opposed to God because God is the true self and God is ultimate reality. So then why does Crowley use satanic terms like Satan, 666, and Baphomet? Why use terms often associated with evil to talk about God? Why not use more neutral terms like being or the absolute? In fact, Crowley does sometimes use these more neutral terms, but there are good reasons that he also sometimes uses the satanic or oppositional imagery. One of them is that Thelema is, at least in part, an act of defiance against Christianity. At least in the West, at the time that Crowley was alive, Christian values held sway. Things like sexual purity, obedience, fear of the afterlife, docility, and the like held sway. Thelema actively rebels against a lot of these values, and so it makes a certain deal of sense to use anti-Christian imagery to represent what Thelema is really about. Thelema is also an eschatological religion. Eschatology has to do with the end times. A new era of human history began in 1904 with the reception of the Book of the Law. A lot of this was couched in the imagery of the Book of Revelation, which describes the end times from a Christian point of view. Another reason is that satanic imagery, in particular the image of the great beast, symbolizes values like strength and delight in manifest existence. In Magic and Theory and Practice, Crowley describes the name Satan as being associated with certain qualities like courage, frankness, energy, pride, power, and triumph. They are the words which express the creative and paternal will. Thus, the devil is Capricornus, the goat who leaps upon the loftiest mountains, the Godhead which, if it become manifest in man, makes him Agapon, the all. Another reason has to do with qualities inherent in the initiatory path. Crowley described this as an inward journey down into the depths of the unconscious, which would put one face to face with one's repressed or neglected parts. In Liber Aleph, he refers to the unconscious as hell because it is a kind of repository of these neglected or rejected parts of oneself that one must work through in order to become whole. At the center of hell, that is beyond the veil of the unconscious, one finds Hadit, who Crowley elsewhere identifies with Satan. Hadit is the center of one's star or soul and represents the principle of true individuality and true selfhood. So there are a lot of meanings of Satan within Thelema. Some of it is exoteric, referring to the particular values that Thelemites live by. Others are more esoteric, having to do with qualities of the inward journey and the inner spiritual path. So is Satan a real individual in the context of Thelema? It's the wrong question to ask. You need to start by asking, what are the qualities of a real individual or a real self? To be a real individual can only mean being a god or a star. A god's individuality transcends what we normally think of as personal identity. It doesn't have personality traits. It doesn't have good and evil traits. It transcends those sorts of oppositions. That being said, we interact with godhood through various symbols at various times and in various contexts. Some of those are symbols of harmony, symbols of unity. Jesus Christ would be one such symbol of harmony and beauty. But at other times, it is the glory and the sublimity of God that predominates. And the experience of the sublime borders right up next to the experience of fear and terror. For those aspects of God, a more monstrous symbol like the serpent or Satan or Baphomet might be more appropriate. What do you think Satan means in the context of Thelema? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, there's a really good chance you're going to enjoy this next video right here. So go check that out. Until next time, love is the law, love under will.